Welcome to Quest for Quest. I'm your host, Adam. In this series, I review and rate each episode of the real adventures of Jonny Quest. In my personal opinion, the series worked best when it combined a solid mystery for the mind and emotional thrills for the heart. So when assigning a score, I primarily consider these two factors. A disclaimer. This show is nearly 30 years old, so I will be discussing it with spoilers. If you haven't watched it yet, I highly recommend you do so, as it's worth your time. Then, come back to this discussion. Today, I'm reviewing the second episode of the first season, titled Escape to Questworld. I will begin with a recap of the plot, followed by a discussion of some of the episode's highlights, and conclude with my overall thoughts and rating. If you're not interested in the plot summary, you can use the timestamps to jump to the relevant parts of the video. Now, onto the recap. The episode starts once again with a flashback. It's 1978, and we're in Chicago. Race Bannon is handling the threat of Dr. Jeremiah Surd, who is threatening to unleash a deadly nerve gas upon the city if he does not receive $2 million, which in today's money would be worth almost $5 million. Race traces Surd's location to the city harbor. Together with a SWAT team, he boards Surd's ship. A bloody shootout takes place with guns firing, helicopters exploding, and knives being thrown. In the end, Race reaches Surd, who reveals that the nerve gas is actually hidden in the city, not on the ship. Race lays down his gun and suggests working out a deal, when suddenly soldiers drop in from above and shoot Surd in the leg. Feeling betrayed, Surd lunges for the controls, but a soldier shoots him right in the neck, presumably killing him. In the present day, construction workers are demolishing an old building. Accidentally, they discover the hidden location of Surd's nerve gas. The gas is released, killing 5 of them gruesomely within minutes. Then Commander Bennett contacts Race because he knows Surd best. He informs him of the accident and asks him to deal with the deadly gas. Race reluctantly agrees and flies to Illinois with Dr. Quest. They put on hazmat suits and make their way into the dome, accidentally tripping a laser sensor in the process. The booby trap shuts the doors and releases more gas. They're safe for the time being, but Bennett tells them that their suits will only last 22 hours, and the trap has triggered a countdown that will presumably set off explosions and release the gas into the city. Dr. Quest and Race begin working on disarming the bomb. Meanwhile, Jesse, Jonny, and Haji commence their investigation into Surd. They manage to locate his death certificate but notice a discrepancy. The last hospital transfer record is dated 5 months after his supposed death. Surd was last transferred to Belle Isle Institute for the Insane in January 1979. Team Quest heads out on a rowboat to Belle Isle. The place exudes a distinct Shutter Island vibe. Although this episode predates the novel the movie is based on by several years. The team devises a plan to cut the power during a lightning strike, allowing them to sneak into the institute. There, they discover Surd, still alive but paralyzed. He deduces that they are there to plead for the lives of their fathers. Jonny offers Surd access to Questworld in exchange for saving their fathers. Surd discovers that in the virtual reality, he can be whole again, so he agrees to help them. The team successfully breaks Surd out of prison, taking him back to their main compound to allow him to experience Questworld in full. While in the system, Surd makes a call to Julia, his former right hand, and gives her instructions. When the team notices that Surd has accessed a phone line, they cut his access and restrain him to ensure he keeps his end of the deal. However, the compound is then attacked, and Surd manages to escape with a portable Questworld system. The team realizes that Surd will soon log on to Questworld again. Jonny and Jesse enter Questworld to track Surd. Inside the virtual realm, Surd is altering the program and gains control over it. Haji intervenes and pulls Jessie and Jonny out of the program. Jessie bears a bruise on her arm, evidence that Serd has altered the programming to inflict physical harm. As Dr. Quest and Race face a 4-hour time limit, Jonny and Jessie re-enter Questworld despite Serd's recent display of power. They set off a sonic detonator in Serd's design, forcing him to log out and giving Haji the time to locate the back door Serd has been using. The team successfully traces his location. They find Serd 50 miles away from them, at a truck stop with 4-wheelers, and sneak in. His henchman, Lorenzo, pulls a gun, but they take cover behind Serd, who risks being shot once again. Serd agrees to help them as he has no choice. With a minute left, Jonny relays Serd's instructions to his dad and Race. Between two wires, Serd tells them to cut the orange wire, but Race stops him and tells Dr. Quest to cut the blue one instead, since he doesn't trust Serd. Dr. Quest cuts the blue wire, and there's a minor explosion. The truck they're in begins moving. Jonny, Jessie, and Haji jump onto the road. They pick up their phone to hear Dr. Quest talking to them. He and Race are okay, and the bomb is defused. Serd was in fact lying until the very end. Now, onto the review proper. This is another great episode of the real adventures of Jonny Quest. Actually, if I were reviewing this series chronologically, it would take us quite some time until we come across a mediocre episode, let alone a bad one. Speaking of chronology, like most animated shows up until the 2000s, The Real Adventures doesn't follow a continuous storyline, so you can watch the show in no particular order. However, there are certain episodes that have a chronology. Escape to Questworld is one of them because it introduces Dr. Jeremiah Serd, a new recurring villain of Team Quest, and also Questworld itself. Whenever a character enters this cybernetic reality, we get to enjoy the 1996 CG animation at its best. Nowadays, these scenes look horribly dated, but keep in mind that in the mid-90s, these were really advanced. Also, this is not even a theatrical release, but a TV show for kids, so the budget wasn't there to support such an endeavor. In fact, these scenes were so expensive that by Season 2, the usage of Questworld will be heavily reduced. The second notable thing about Escape to Questworld is the introduction of the great Dr. Jeremiah Serd, who will be a recurring villain for this season. Team Quest's nemesis from the original show, Dr. Zinn, won't be back until Season 2. I'm not sure why the creators decided to go with a new villain, but I'm not going to complain, because Serd is awesome. He was described by the showrunner, Peter Lawrence, as essentially a malevolent Stephen Hawking. However, there are more layers to him than just that. He's completely paralyzed, so what makes him dangerous is exclusively his superior mind. This gives him and Race Bannon a very unique dynamic, given that Race serves as the muscle of Team Quest, not necessarily the brains. Serd blames Race for his condition, and takes every opportunity to exact his revenge on him, often in interesting and creative ways. However, Serd's goal is not only vengeance. After discovering Questworld, which gives him freedom from his quadriplegic body, he also wants to dominate it, and become the undisputed controller of cyberspace. All of that makes him a pretty unique villain. You don't have to sympathize with him, but empathy is well deserved. In a way, he's this show's variation on Mr. Freeze from Batman, the animated series. Apart from his characterization, I also really enjoy his design, which is built on intriguing contrasts. He has the face of a shaggy grandpa, but his body is locked in what is essentially a futuristic suit of armor. The brilliant Frank Welker provides the voice. Serd is eloquent and soft-spoken, but also commanding when the situation demands it. The voice modulator he uses makes him sound extremely fragile, which in turn adds another layer of contrast to this character. He can be deliciously evil, but is not devoid of a sense of humor. In fact, in Escape to Questworld, he delivers one of the funniest lines in the entire show.
So, you've come to plead for the lives of your fathers.
How did you know about our fathers?
Every station on television's been playing that story since this morning. Do you know how many times they've interrupted Scooby-Doo? And it wasn't even one I'd seen yet. I'm still very upset.
The final contrast is between the real Surd and his virtual form. In Questworld, he is an all-powerful force, and even Welker's voice performance resembles it. He conveys many more emotions, up to the point of sounding maniacal. In a nutshell, Surd is truly a unique cartoon villain. He's definitely one of the greatest of all time.
And there's a problem with the Davros of old in that he's a wheelchair user who is evil. And I had problems with that, and a lot of us on the production team had the problems with that, of associating disability with evil. And trust me, there's a very long tradition of this.
Now let's talk about the mystery. Escape to Questworld sees a shift in genres when compared to The Darkest Fathoms. While Episode 1 was basically a Scooby-Doo narrative, with fake ghost pirates and hidden treasure, Episode 2 is a riveting techno-thriller in the vein of Tom Clancy. There are containers with deadly gas hidden somewhere in Chicago that Race tries to locate. In order to prevent the gas from spreading, Dr. Quest and Race need to dismantle a bomb, but they won't make it unless Jonny and friends find Surd, who apparently isn't dead after all, which is a mini-mystery on its own. Then he escapes them, so they need to track him once again, and make him cooperate. And only in the end does he reveal which wire Dr. Quest should cut, but then he cuts the other one instead, rightfully presuming that Surd is lying. And so up until literally the final minute of the episode, we don't know how Quest and Race will get out of this mess. This episode keeps you guessing until the very end, so in my opinion, it deserves 5 points out of 5. When it comes to thrills, I also believe this episode is a 5-pointer. Early on, we witness how deadly Surd's gas is, so the stakes are raised very high. We understand how crucial it is for Dr. Quest to dismantle the bomb. If this weren't bad enough, a countdown mechanism is introduced, and time is running out. At one point, Race's suit gets torn. In the end, Quest needs to decide which wire to cut. His dilemma provides us with the final burst of adrenaline. In the end, my rating is 5 Qs out of 5. As much as I loved the pirate theme of The Darkest Fathoms, to me Escape to Questworld is an even better episode. It has a great premise, high stakes, and an amazing villain. Definitely give it a watch. That's all I got for you today. Do you remember watching Escape to Questworld back in a day? What did you think about the episode? Please leave a comment, consider liking the video, and subscribing to the channel. And join me for another Quest for Quest. Until next time. Bye.